And I want to discuss with you the problem that we face as a community. In fact, the most important problem that we face as human beings. And look at it from the standpoint of its being maybe an online game. So first, to get us started, I've got a couple of questions for those of you in the room here. How many of you would call yourselves gamers? Okay, all right, not a bad group. And maybe just a little larger than a statistical sample of other roomfuls of people might be. So now I'm going to try to, those of you who put up your hands, want to find out which of these categories you're in. How many of you would call yourselves casual gamers? Yeah, that's why you're not flunking out of school. All right, what about the hardcore gamers? Oh, and it's amazing that you're still in school. Do we have anybody who is a professional, who's putting herself through college by doing games?
Oh, sorry.
Hey, we've got one person here. Good for you. All right, he can come up and give the rest of the talk. All right, then there are these other categories. There's the category of newbie. Any newbies, people who are new to this? Any people who specialize in international games? Any people who are retro gamers? You like to play Pac-Man or one of those games? Yeah, we got a couple of hands. And finally, girl gamers. How many girl gamers do we have? Yeah, quite a bunch. Good. All right. How many hours a month? How many of you are gaming more than 10 hours a month? More than 20. Still got some hands. More than 40. Wow. Okay, you all are serious. Okay, now here's a trivial pursuit question for you. What is an MMORPG? I think I heard some of that there, right? It's a massively multiple online role-playing game. And what is ESL? It's not English as a second language, it's eSports League. And Team Digitas, anybody heard of Team Digitas? So the idea is that in a lot of these online multiple games, you have many players who line up in the clans. They're used to playing with each other. They're effective in that way. Okay, so this is a pretty savvy group. Now I have another question to categorize the people in this room. So I want to talk about 3 levels of reality. The first level is what I'm going to call the real world. It's the world in which rain happens. It's the world in which the lack of rain happens, drought. It's the world of extreme events. How many folks here live in that world and are very aware of it? Okay, now a lot of hands, but notice not everybody. I'd say that was maybe a third. How many of you are living in what would be the industrial world? You see that picture there? It's an indoor mall. It looks like an outdoor setting, but it's entirely enclosed. How many people in this room are living in that real world? Not so many. How many of you are living in the virtual world? You're inside that industrial world and you spend much of your life staring at that LCD screen. All right, there's some people of you here who are not alive at all. You didn't put your hand up for any of those 3 categories. But the point I want us to reflect on a little bit is that because of human progress, we have moved from a people that were used to living in the real world, that where what happened on the earth, the storms and the lack of storms, the earthquakes, all the extreme events, the climate and climate changes were very important to us. We've isolated ourselves from that and moved to this more insulated world, and within that insulated world, we've produced another one. Now let's go back to the real world. The real world at one and the same time presents three different aspects to us. Three different aspects. It is a resource. It is the sum of all of our hopes and aspirations. It's where we get our energy, we get our food, we get our water, we get all those things we need to sustain life for ourselves and for the critters and plants that we depend on from this real world. That threefold relationship continues. So the earth is also a victim. Because there's 7 billion of us and we're sort of trampling around, we are impacting that planet. We are degrading the environment. We are reducing habitat. We are reducing biodiversity. And finally, that world is also a threat through cycles of flood and drought and other extreme events. And just sort of hold this thought for a minute. We are losing our touch with this world. So now I want to ask you another set of questions. This first has to do with the similarities between living on this real world and the MMORPGs. So, in order to, excuse me, I'm overcome by emotion. The last time I asked questions, there was a battle of voices. So I want you to put your hand up. For similarities, what's similar about the real world and the game, the online game? Can anybody hear me? Okay, yes sir. Speak loud. Yell.
Not much. Not much.
Not much? Well, anybody disagree with that? Okay, let me say there are, in fact, a fair number of similarities. That would be one argument. Yes.
Yeah.
Community. Okay, that's a good one. We're going to come back to that. That's a very important one. So we've got not much, which is a very realistic answer. Community. Other aspects in which the two are the same. Yes?
Every action has consequences.
Every action has consequences. That's true of the game, and it's true of reality. Others. Okay, here's my list. Okay, the first is that both the real world and the game are constantly producing a number of opportunities. There are things we want to capture, abilities we want to amass, capabilities. There are things we want to avoid. Do you agree with that one? Another one is that speed matters and effectiveness matters. When you see something coming at you in a video game or in real life, you have to have the correct response. A response that not just is fast, but it's got to be the right response. Also, would you agree that in most video games it's easier to lose than to win? And the same thing is true of dealing with the planet we're living on. Teamwork is essential, going back to the comment about community. And as the play progresses, the challenges go up. So let's look at that next one a little bit. So can everyone see this graph all right? It's a graph of the human population over the last several thousands of years. And what you see is there's a spike just in the span of 1 or 2 human lifetimes. A growth in population from less than 1 billion to approaching 7 billion or so people. not only has the population grown, but the resource consumption per capita has grown. In the developing country, you and I, in the developed world, use 40 to 50 times every resource that you can think of more than somebody in the undeveloped world. We use 400 gallons of water a day compared with the subsistence level of water of 2 gallons a day. Does that mean we're drinking more of this? No, it's everything else we do contributes to that water use, making a car, getting electricity, all the rest of it. Furthermore, technology and social change are accelerating, and so everything that leads to, when you think of living on the real world as a video game, everything points to the fact that we've reached a new level where things are happening at a speed something like 100 times. The impacts on the planet are something like 100 times of what they were just a lifetime or two ago. Okay, now the differences between that game, that video game, and the living on the real world. Hands again. Yes?
In a video game, you often have a second chance.
Okay, perfect. In the video game, you have a do-over. What else is different? Yes?
You don't have to be yourself to be anyone you want to be.
Okay, in the video game, you don't have to be yourself. You can be anyone you want to be. You can play a role, yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yeah, you can have cheat codes, that's right. Yeah, what else? We're on the roll here. Any others? Okay, so here's the list. First of all, we don't play this game when we want to. We play it on nature's rules and nature's schedule. There is no pause button. You don't hit the pause button. You don't have the urge to have a latte and say, well, I'll come back to this in a few hours. We have to keep playing. There are no do-overs, and none of us gets a chance to sit down. We're all involved in this. So here's some good news in the face of this. There are actually 4 tools that we have for coping with this video game that were presented by the real world. The first is a basis of facts, knowledge, and understanding.